Hello there, my very good friends. I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And I'm Michael Sidgwick from WhatCulture.
On today's wrestling news, we're going to cover Vince McMahon leaving WWE Raw early. We're going to cover the lowest rated hour in Raw history. On top of that, we've got some UpUpDownDown controversy to approach as well. And on top of all that, we've got Bray Wyatt's first post-WWE move, which has been confirmed. This is the news. I'm not good at doing Wilborn's gimmicks, but we're going to kick things off by talking about Vince McMahon departing Raw, tapings early. So he was there in the building. Raw this week was at Louisville, Kentucky. He was there during the day, during the afternoon. This is a report from PW Insider's Mike Johnson. Long creative meeting. It's literally described here as a capital letters long production meeting before the show, but Vince not sticking around for the broadcast itself. Off he went. There was no Bruce Pritchard on the night either, which meant that John Laurinaitis, the head of talent relations, was there to run the show. No word on why exactly Vince buggered off, but bugger off he most certainly did. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened in 2021. The most recent example was in early September when Vince wasn't in the building, but he was apparently controlling traffic from far off, offering a bit of feedback, going, hey pal, this sucks, change it, whatever, as he's prone to doing. There we go, Vince leaving early.
One of my favourite things about this story, and indeed certain other WWE developments of late, is that I've got a reputation as a bit of a harsh critic of WWE. Biased, co-opted, whatever.
Paid shill.
Vince McMahon's more bored of WWE than anybody who dislikes the product. And I'm not saying he left because he couldn't be asked to sit through it. There's probably a more significant reason. But it's funny, you know, he books Dominic Mysterio on Team Raw, wakes up and thinks, nah, that's a bit boring, that. I'll just do something else instead.
Yeah, here's Robert Lashley, bring him in. More interesting, admittedly. But,
Vince McMahon is more bored of his own product than the people who get buried for criticising it.
And he's been at this for what, 30, 40 years now as well? So maybe we can forgive him for being a bit more bored of it than anyone else.
Maybe he should improve it then.
Yeah, do you know who else was bored of it this week? The televised audience, going by the numbers. Not a good week for Raw ratings wise, and we don't talk ratings very often on the news because usually it's not all that notable. It's up 100,000, it's down 50,000. It's not usually that interesting, but this week saw the lowest rated hour in the history of Raw. The third hour, of course. There's always a decline in the third hour of Raw because it's a long-ass TV show and it's hard to hold interest for that point, for that length. But I'll just run through the numbers here, of course, courtesy, as always, of Brandon Thurston at WrestleNomics. He's first to report these. Showbuzz Daily have the tables. Data's a mix of those dudes. Right, 1.549 million viewers across the 3 hours. The 18 to 49 demographic rating, which is how TV shows are ranked, remember, was enough for Raw to finish 6th on the night. Monday Night Football, NFL dominating as always, you know, at the moment. Competition's there. It's probably the reason why these numbers aren't so spectacular at the moment, or one of the reasons. But yeah, that third hour. So hour 1 was 1.65 million, hour 2 was 1.62 million, hour 3 was down to just 1.37 million viewers. That is the joint lowest in terms of viewership in history. Ties the third hour on the 5th of July. But also, if you take the 18 to 49 demographic into account, then is the lowest hour in Raw history. So yeah, not a good hour at all. That hour was, of course, built around Seth the Chef versus Kev the Dev. So, yeah, not the biggest praise or sign for those guys.
No, not exactly. I would personally put this down to a combination of factors. One, competition, sports. That's always a big factor in the decline of weekly episodic TV when those seasons start to heat up. So that's a factor. Two, this Survivor Series build has been lamentable.
Yeah.
Unfocused. It felt a couple of weeks ago that there wasn't even an upcoming destination on the horizon. We couldn't even determine whether they were actually going to go with the Raw vs SmackDown deal this year. There was no real hooks. They were starting things with Seth Rollins and Big E and Kevin Owens in the storyline, but very slow burn. And I don't want to turn this into a Seth Rollins shoot for sexed up clicks and to rile up people in the comment sections, but we've been here before with him.
Yeah.
He's not a top drawing main event level guy. That's simply the truth of the matter. And, you know, very few people are. That's not a direct criticism of Seth Rollins. And I think he's got a better role to play. I mean, look at what he did with Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam 2020. He should absolutely be the number one guy to bleed through the next generation of talent, to carry them, to make them look great, to craft really strong matches that obscure their levels of inexperience. That's the role he should be playing. Like Seth Rollins, and I know time is in a weird standstill in recent years. Seth Rollins has been playing the role of a top singles WWE guy for 7 years. That's like as long or longer than The Rock and Austin's runs on top. It's just, he's overexposed, he's a bit miscast, but there's other combinations at play here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mostly they're rubbish booking.
Yeah, and the jackets probably don't help matters either. I'm sure that's what's driving all viewers off. Good analysis, Andy. But yeah, it's been a rough week for wrestling ratings in general. SmackDown had its worst number in a couple of months last week. AEW had a rubbish number last Wednesday as well.
Is that balanced opinion?
It really is, yeah. I mean, Tony's check hasn't come through for the month yet, so there you go. But yeah, when you get your check, my friends, you know what you can do? Spend it on some books. What a transition. Yes. WhatCulture.BigCartel.com. The link to that will be in the description below. We have a trio of books. One new, 2 reprints, although I guess one of the reprints is half new. WhatCulture.BigCartel.com. If you order now, you'll get them in time for Christmas. International shipping is available. First one. Headliner, the flagship of this release, is Becoming All Elite, the AEW story penned by this man himself. We have that in a bundle deal with Michael's other book, Development Hell, the NXT story. You want your AEW book, you want your NXT book, you can get them in that bundle. On top of that, we have updated our old book, 505 Wrestling Matches to See Before You Die, to 606, because it turns out there's been some pretty good wrestling matches over the past few years. So there you go, check them out. Any words on your written genius, my friend?
That's an absolute hospital pass. Look, I worked my absolute bollocks off writing, drafting, editing 120,000 words on All Elite Wrestling. If you're into that promotion and if you want to know why, not just a breakdown of the numbers, you've got the Wrestling Observer newsletter for that. If you want to know why, the insight, the analytical depth as to why AEW has evolved from alternative to competition over these seminal 2 years, buy the book. I'm really proud of it.
And I'm sure it'll be an absolutely tremendous read. Cannot wait to get my hands on it myself, my friend. Anyway, we're going to move over to our next story today. Up, Down. You might have looked at that YouTube channel recently and gone, where the hell is all the content? Well, Fightful Select have come through with a couple of reports on the matter last night, and it's kind of strange, it's kind of weird. Xavier Woods is said to be making little to nothing from the project and has apparently ceased production of content on that until he can strike a deal, or had. It's written in the past tense here, so perhaps there's cogs moving in the background. In addition to this, the content creators who collaborate with Woods on the content for Up, Down are doing similar. They're showing solidarity with the guy because they think he should be getting a better deal. They're trying to obtain something for Up, Down. Now, an interesting part of this, I'd always assumed that Up, Down was Woods' thing and he sold it to WWE at some point. It's not the case. It's always been a WWE property, apparently. So Woods has got this thing that he's built from nothing in 2015 to what were we at? 2.27 million subscribers, and he's barely getting a penny of that. Content creation for that comes off his downside with WWE, it seems. Fightful sources here believe that the recent King of the Ring winner should have at least been rewarded financially for growing the channel and sparking its continued success. Sounds like the creators are saying, hey, come on, give us a little sliver of the honey or we're not going to make you any more money, WWE. Not a big consumer of the content myself, so it was kind of interesting to read up on this stuff. But what do you reckon of this? Is this another example of WWE's independent contractor status kind of biting the wrestlers in the bum? Yes, absolutely it is. I don't want to get overtly political on a Daft Pro Wrestling news video, but I'm all about worker solidarity, just as a general rule. And, it's as unfair, this news, as it is unsurprising. For Christ's sake, give him a piece of the pie that he himself has cooked. It's fair. Yeah. It's the fair thing to do. It's probably not going to happen. And at the end of the day, it's not as if it's some schlub on NXT who's done this. Xavier Woods is a prominent WWE star. For political reasons, public relations, 2 words, for those reasons alone, you should probably want to keep a top guy who's consistently got himself over in a broken system, no less. Keep him happy. It just seems like common sense. Yeah. Even that company's possibly incapable of doing nice things. Do crafty political things instead. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. It should be noted as well that as part of this report is noted that there's no heat internally on Xavier in WWE, and that the majority of people that Fightful spoke to were backing him in this situation and everything else. So there you go. Xavier Woods, up, down, down. I suspect there'll be more to come from this. We'll see. Bray Wyatt, his first post-WWE project has been revealed, and we'll keep this one brief. He's doing a movie. We kind of covered this the other week when Fightful reported again that Bray had been in Hollywood fielding offers, inquiring, stuff like that. He was photographed with Jason Baker of Colossum Studios. That kind of got the speculation swirling, and now Jason has spoken to Alistair McGeorge of Metro, basically confirming that in 2 weeks they will commence production of a film. He describes it as Ichi the Killer meets Xanadu, so some kind of horror gimmick going on there. He's confirmed that there won't be any Fiend, any Bray Wyatt stuff in there. It's Wyndham Rotunda and him collaborating on this project, it seems. Rotunda's been a free agent since he was let go in July. Non-compete clause was up at the end of October, so he's been technically free to wrestle elsewhere, but it looks like he's making movies, pal. Sips water.
I was shocked that this wasn't going to be a romantic comedy. I have to tell you. Of course it was going to be a horror. Of course it was going to be a horror.
Get Sister Abigail back in. Why
It's become quite apparent over the past 2 years of his creative. I know that we don't know the extent to which he had a hand in it. Obviously, some of it was him. That his interests extend beyond the pro wrestling sphere. This seems like a perfect fit for him. And indirectly, if he can get acclaim from mainstream outlets and almost indirectly rehab his aura and his reputation, because I mean, just shy of a decade ago, this guy was heralded as a potential professional wrestling genius with his creativity. Mm-hmm. That aura has been completely and utterly diluted, in my opinion, and indeed the company that used to contract his services. This might be the best route back into prominence for Bray Wyatt, because we've sat around, discussed video podcasts and articles and the like, what next for Bray Wyatt, and it felt like there's no real home for him. Ring of Honor, even before it went on hiatus, if in fact that's not a euphemism, didn't feel like a fit for him. AEW doesn't go for supernatural, otherworldly stuff. Mm-hmm. Impact feels like it was a bit small. Maybe they were going to break the bank to get a performer of the money he would be after. It just felt like there was no place for him, and maybe this is his place. And 3 years later, with the aura as a genius rehabilitated, if in fact he ever was, it's a savvy political move and a creative outlet that he wants to do, so fair play to the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it takes off, who knows? Maybe it could be a way for him to make even more money without beating himself up for a living. Good for him.
Yes.
Looking forward to see what comes of it. Anyway, we're going to move over to our Twitter questions for the day. We're going to begin with one from John Baer, who asks, with Eddie Kingston gaining some buzz after his promo battle with Punk, would you be interested in a short AEW world title reign for him? Getting cheers over Punk is eye-opening. Also eye-opening, we should put over the Players Tribune article.
Yes.
That Eddie penned yesterday. If you've not seen that yet, I retweeted it about 5 times. You can check my Twitter for the link. It's the best piece of wrestling writing I've read all year, and furthers Eddie's status. I've not read your book yet, mate. It's fine. Furthers Eddie's status as the guy, furthering important mental health conversations in this field that's always been so regressive, and tough guys in locker rooms and stuff. It's a great read. But what do you reckon of this question?
I'm absolutely 100% in agreement with it, and I might not have been about 2 or 3 weeks ago, between the Danielson match, that absolutely seminal promo angle on the last Rampage, the Players Tribune article, the reactions he's getting in the arenas. I've evolved my opinion on Eddie Kingston from best utility player in professional wrestling, totally valuable, to strap him up.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him. He's unbelievably talented in absolutely every area of the game. Fiercely believable, incredibly endearing, as real as it gets. I adore him. A lot of people are beginning to really fall in love with this pro wrestling character, which barely feels like a pro wrestling character. Strap him up, he's amazing.
Realest guy in any room he ever walks into, no matter how huge that room is. It's really gratifying, for me, as someone who's been watching him for 10 years, it's so cool seeing him have this run. But also for people who are just discovering him, that must be really incredible as well. And I would love to see it myself. It doesn't have to be a long run, like you say, but for Eddie to get his big moment, that would be his reward for 18 years of struggle and toil on the smaller stages. Second question today comes from Jay, who asks, what is something small/insignificant that annoys you in wrestling? For me, it's when a group of wrestlers stand and look at something preparing for a spot from the top rope to the outside of the ring. Why don't they just move out of the way? Shout outs to Xavier Jr., of course, for his legendary rant on that matter. But I think we've got the same answer, so yes. Take it away.
I hate it, right? And it happens in AEW and WWE and virtually everywhere except maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
When an entrance music heralds the arrival of someone who wasn't scheduled to be in the ring at that given time, when they are about to beat somebody down in the post-match or saving someone from a beatdown. Like, use your head. What's happening here? Is there some kind of sensor that they walk through beyond gorilla into the ring that detects, all right, I can see that's the DNA of Hangman Page, and that's like, and automatically triggers the production unit to play his song. Yeah. Either that happens or it's fake.
Yeah.
Either that happens or it's a production and it's fake, or the third option is Hangman Page sees like his beloved Dark Order guys. And I'm not burying Hangman Page, this is an AEW thing, it's a pro wrestling thing. Hangman Page sees his beloved Dark Order allies, the guys who restored his mental health and made him whole again, getting the crap kicked out of them by Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in the ring, right? And I'm using some of my favourite wrestlers as the standard I hold to AEW. WWE can do what they want, they're rubbish. Does he therefore go, right, he's getting his head kicked in, and I love him. It would be way cooler if our music played though, so I'm going to waste 2 seconds if this guy's getting his head kicked in to ask the guy controlling the buttons to play my music, because I'll look cooler if I do this. Is that pedantic or is it just me?
It's extremely contrived and it fits the bill perfectly as a small, relatively insignificant thing that gets under your skin.
It gets a pop. I'm not an idiot.
Exactly.
I know why they do it, but it gets a pop at the expense of this feeling like a real, lively... It's meant to be real. You're meant to believe in it. You're meant to suspend your disbelief.
What are you suspending for this? Quick addition, not going to dive into it too much. 2 words that I now actively avoid using in normal conversation, and they're perfectly normal everyday words. Wrestling has killed them. Opportunity, and wood. Just unpack that ones for yourself. They're bad. Stop using them. Never use the word wood. Lizard, with the final question of the day, asks the following. With how legendary All Out was, it feels like there's a lot of pressure for Full Gear to live up to the same hype. What's something monumental that has to happen on Saturday for it to come close? Certainly, you know, All Out is the most hyped event in AEW history for Punk, Danielson, and whatever the heck else, the match quality, all that heading into it. What do you reckon of Full Gear? Does it need a monumental moment?
It just needs to be as awesome as it looks to be on paper. Yeah. You can't deliver a show like All Out 2021 every quarter.
No.
You just can't do it. You can't debut 2 of the best wrestlers of all time / the most promising main event level talents of all time in the same segment, no less. Yeah. That's unsustainable. You can't do that anymore. In terms of making this iconic, which is really the level that I expect from an AEW pay-per-view, like mere excellence is not enough. There's a standard to maintain. To make this iconic, and I've wavered on whether this is really fitting to the story or whether they can save it to get someone beyond Hangman Page over. If Hangman Page kicks out the One-Winged Angel, people will remember the show forever. Like, absolutely. I don't know how important it is in the story anymore. It's all about the belt. It all stems back to All Out 2019 on that level of this story, but maybe the One-Winged Angel kick out can do something like that, but you don't want to chase these iconic moments. You want to let them happen naturally, otherwise you'll give yourself nothing to do in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time. Exactly,
and that organic moment as well, of course, of Page finally winning the title. It feels like it's going to be the big moments on this show are going to be the product of years of storytelling rather than, hey, look at this guy we signed, which is interesting and cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. And finally, want to give a shout out today to Wrestling with Doom, who's got some lovely signs that they're going to take, presumably to Dynamite tonight. Tweeted us. Thank you very much. The appreciation is always there. Got a couple here. We got good fundamentals. And we got the H stands for holy shiz. Look, if you tweet us this stuff, we're probably going to talk about it on the news. So it's a great way to get a shout, but we appreciate it. We love you. Thank you for your support. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd probably be doing something that's not as fun as this for a living. So it's great. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. Follow us on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE. You can follow Sidgwick on Twitter at
Sidgwick.
You can follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H today stands for Hey, happy birthday to our biggest fan, the #1 mark in the history of this channel, the guy who keeps the lights on in this building for all his great support. Ryback. Thank you. Goodbye.